Bumpy bump we still don't have an intro song, but I got some pretty lame graphics and other stuff and a new camera setup that I'm working on. I hope you like it. I hope you do. Trying some new stuff out. So we'll see how it goes. Bear with me. I'm probably gonna make 100 mistakes, but for what I eventually want to do, this is this is the setup that I want to go with. Eventually, I'd like to have a better setup, but we're evolving, baby steps. So just bear with me. This is the bite-sized breakdown, which we're doing on Thursdays now, and the weekend wind-up, so people have a chance to watch a Thursday night. So hopefully this will be up and downloaded by like 6-7 o'clock from now on. Tonight was a little later, and I apologize for that. But I had to try to get my new camera set up, figured out, and how I'm going to do everything. And it took a minute, but I think we're finally there. So we're gonna hope that this works. I hope I got my sound right, and it'll take a while. It'll take me a few months to get everything the way I want it, but we'll get there. So what we're gonna do right now is we are gonna talk about what's coming up. So what is on the schedule for the weekend, and that's what the weekend wind-up is all about. So Friday night, we are going to be at Art Garden as usual. At the spotlights start at 6, so I'll talk about those in just a minute. And then Saturday, we're going to be at Bubbly. This is our inaugural, our first ever third Saturday, and we're going to be meeting at Bubbly twice a month now, which is super exciting. Yes, there will be a kids table there. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. And then Monday, we're going to finish off the wraparound weekend with 3 meetups in 4 days, which is fantastic. We'll be at Bubbly at Time and Change on Monday. Same time as ever. Games usually start about 6, but if you want to get happy hour, get there a little early. So let's talk about the spotlights for this Friday. We've got 4 spotlights starting at 6 as usual. We've got Kelsey doing Juicy Fruits. We have Lauren doing Sagrada. We have Andrea Dean doing Flamecraft. And Paul, he did a little poll. It looks like Power Grid won out, but we'll see. I think that's what he'll go with. We also have a request to do an on deck for right after the spotlights. Kelsey would like to teach. She wants to have a rerun of Harmonies, and the reason she doesn't want to do a teach is because she wants to play on the other side of the board, the harder side with the islands. So she's asking whoever wants to play that to know the rules, to have already played. Should be a ton of people who know how to play that game. It's been getting a lot of run here. So she's going to start with Juicy Fruits. When she's done with that, she'll move on to Harmonies, the rerun. So if you're in a spotlight at 6 and you really want to play Harmonies, you can maybe get with her before you start your game. Just be like, hey, check with me if I'm not done by the time you are getting ready to start Harmonies. Check with me and see if my game's going to be over soon, because I'd like to get in it. So just talk to her. I'm sure she wouldn't mind waiting 10-15 minutes. You can grab a drink, something, bite to eat, talk to people, hang out. Most people don't mind waiting a few minutes to start, but if you really want to get in, say something before so she doesn't accidentally start without you. And then Saturday, so Jason is going to do the kids table yet again. He's going to continue to do it every time there's a Bubbly. He said he will be there unless he'll let me know otherwise. So unless I say otherwise, we can expect Jason to have the kids table, which is fantastic. So just for those of you who don't know, Jason is a retired 2nd grade teacher who has, I would say, quite an extensive knowledge of the good kids games that are out there. The ones that are good enough for adults to enjoy. So if you want, you can get there maybe a little bit before noon. grab yourself something to eat at Bubbly. There's some great foods that I love. Listen, I have a dish I get start out every Bubbly. I love it. You can let your child sit there and learn from Jason and play with other kids, and you can sit at another table if you want. Grab a drink, eat food, relax, read a book, do whatever it is you do to chill. Close your eyes. There's a patio there. It's fantastic. There's lots of stuff that you can just kind of relax. We do ask that you stay in the building. That's it. And if you want to play with your kid, then Jason will teach you too. And he tells me all the time how great these games are, that they're for adults as well as children. So, it's free. It's a fantastic service that he's offering. Take advantage of it, folks. If you got kids, take advantage. And if you love to play games, you can play with the adults while Jason teaches the kids too. So, yeah, it's a win-win. Win-win-win. I don't know. It feels like there's 5 wins in there, I think. So those are the spotlights, and that's what's going on Saturday. For Bubbly, we're usually there. We're there at 11. I usually get something to eat right after we get done setting up. But then we game, all day long, like for 7, 8, 9, 10. I think we game till 10 o'clock. We closed the place the last time 2 weeks ago, and they were totally cool with us. We were there a little bit later, cleaning up and stuff, and they no problem. They didn't 10 o'clock didn't come and they threw us out. They don't have the bummer is they don't offer coffee anymore. The coffee shop closed, so we bring our Keurig. They said they're cool with that. We may not have the kind of coffee that you like. We try to have some extra coffee there, so we do try to bring some to-go cups as well. But we probably don't have a sweetener or a creamer you like. So if you like a certain sweetener or a certain creamer or a certain K-cup, or you want to use your mug, bring it. Bring whatever you want. We've got the cake. We try to have the water there. And if we forget it, we'll ask someone to bring some. That's what happened last time. And 2 people bought gallons of water. So we'll have the coffee maker there. We'll have coffee. We'll have my sweetener. And we may have some to-go cups left. So if not, bring your stuff too. Make it there. Enjoy yourself. Man, it's just a great day of gaming and hanging out with people. It's fantastic. I absolutely love it. And then Mondays, said if you want to get there a little earlier, if you're able to, and you can partake in happy hour and maybe grab something to eat before gaming starts at 6, that's fantastic too. All right, so that's wrapping up the weekend wind up. Before we start in on Seaside, I want to explain to those who might not know, and this is pretty new to everybody outside of me, how I like to break down games. So let's talk about what is a Gahanna gaming group, a Gahanna gaming group breakdown. Let's explain that. Okay. So I'm going to start by talking about the different categories that I use to break down games. I don't do this game's better than that game. I don't do this game is a 6 out of 10 or a 4 out of 5. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. What I do is I break games down into their categories, and for a bite-sized breakdown like this, I'm only ever going to do 4 categories. The first one is rule set. Okay? So whenever I do a breakdown, I'll have a category, and on that category, I'll have 2 extremes. And if you notice, I tried to not have any of the extremes be, necessarily bad or necessarily good, or positive. They're neither positive nor negative. They're neither complimentary nor derogatory. They just are. And in that way, I can try to make it subjective. Now, it's not to say that it's completely, objective. It's not to say that it's completely objective, because maybe I think a game would go here on the complicated, and someone else might think, no, I think it's more, even a little bit streamlined. And we can have that debate, and that's all well and good. But at the end of the day, it's not, if I think it's complicated or if I think it's streamlined, it's not, I'm not tearing it up or hyping it up. I'm just telling you how it plays. And that's how we focus. We focus on the gamer's aspect and not the game. Okay? So, rule set is somewhere between complicated and streamlined. The more rules something has, the more complicated it is. The less rules it has, the more streamlined. If it has a bunch of edge cases, it would be more complicated. If it is so well done, the rule set, that there aren't any edge cases ever, then I would say that that's fairly streamlined. So that's how I break down rule set. The next category that we're going to use in bite-sized is gameplay. For gameplay, we go from simple to complex. So somewhere in the continuum, a game is going to be how it plays. It's either going to be simple or complex. And when I talk about how a game plays, I'm talking about how does it, is it simple or complex mechanistically. And I actually take, you'll hear a lot of people use mechanics and mechanisms interchangeably when it comes to board games. I don't. And it will make more sense when I introduce other categories and talk about other things, why I actually separate mechanisms from mechanics. I consider all of the gameplay that takes place in your head, so like hand management or like logic, the things that you're not, moving things around on a table for, things that everything is going on up here, I would call those mechanics. And all of the manipulations of components, I call those, like, so like if you're drafting or your worker placement or anything where you're actually moving pieces on the board, I call those mechanisms. And the reason why I separate them will make sense later on down the line when I talk more about a full breakdown and not just a bite-sized one. So the fewer mechanistic things you have to consider while you're puzzling out your move, the more simple a game is. The more mechanistic aspects a game has that you have to consider for your move, the more complex it is. So that is gameplay. Next is mastery. The third of the four categories that will be in every bite-sized breakdown. Mastery basically goes, listen, I gotta talk to our graphics department. I'm the graphics department. I'm all the departments. I work for free. So what do you want? We'll get better, I promise. So these mastery, I define mastery as your ability to know what the most optimal move is on your turn. Okay? So how long does it take? How many times would you have to play a game before you knew on every turn, about 90% of the time, what the best move was? I would say, like, if you can do that in like 5, 6 games, that game's pretty easy to master, right? If it takes you, if you're 100 games into a game and you still only feel like you make the perfect move 70-80% of the time, that game is very difficult to master. So that's mastery. And the last is planning. So with planning, I consider that all games fall somewhere between tactical and strategic. And planning is how you think about your move, right? If you're able to plan way ahead in advance and maybe you get bumped off a little bit, but then you get back on track or whatever, you basically end up about where you were wanting to. Those games would be strategic. Now, if a game, there's no way to plan in advance, it's completely, like, the game state's completely random every time your turn comes up, there's just too many variables to be able to make any kind of planning in advance, then that game would be considered very tactical. Most games have a little bit of both, but tend to fall in one direction or the other. Okay, so that's a little bit of how I think about games. Like I said, I'm not going to hype games up. I'm not going to tear them down. I'm not going to rate them. I'm not going to rank them. It shouldn't matter to you if I like a game or not. Okay? And you can know maybe one day we'll get copies. Maybe one day somebody will ask us to break down a game and pay us. You will know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that I am 100% biased because I'm not telling you if I like the game or not. You might be able to know that if you know my tastes. Like, if you know that I love, games that fall, in this area of strategy, like any game that is in here, and that I love games that are complex, anything that falls into this. And if I do a game and it's got, these two characteristics, and you know me well enough, and there's a decent chance I like that. And if the theme is something I like, I probably love it. But I'm not gonna tell you that. If we're hanging out and you meet me, you come to a game night and we're playing games, I will absolutely tell you what games. But I'm not gonna sit here and bias up my breakdowns, because I don't think that helps anybody. I don't think it matters what games I like. I don't think it should matter to you. But yeah, you will know beyond a shadow of a doubt that our game breakdowns are 100% unbiased, because we're not telling you if we like them or not. We're just telling you how complicated the rule set is, how complex the gameplay is, how strategic or tactical the planning is, how easy or difficult the game is to master, and some other things too. There's some other really interesting categories that we have, and when you figure out what categories are you most interested in, and you start adding 2 or 3 of the categories together, and you're like, oh, I love a game that's really complicated but simple, but to play, but really difficult to master. That's my favorite kind of game. And then you just look at our database, which I will eventually get to, and see what games match that. And then you can go, oh, well, that's the kind of game I'm in. That's the kind of mood I'm in tonight. So let's find one of these games. Because I personally don't think that, just knowing the mechanics of a game or the mechanisms of a game, how a game plays mechanistically, or some random person's opinion, I don't think those are very good indicators of whether or not that game is right for you, or what that game is right for you right now. Because believe it or not, most people's tastes change after a while, and my tastes change every week. There might be a night I want to get into something really strategic, and then there might be a night where no, let's go tactical and really simple, and just kind of relax and have some fun. But I mean, there are mechanics and mechanisms that fall into both of those categories. You can have a really strategic game that has deck building, and you can have a really tactical game that has deck building. Just because it has deck building doesn't mean I'm in the mood to play it. I just because reviewer X loved it or hated it doesn't mean I'm going to love it or hate it. But if you use this system, which is just a tool, and I'm not saying it's infallible, I'm just saying it works really well for me to help people find what kind of games they like, and to help people get a better grasp of the lexicon of this hobby. it just works for us. So if it's a tool that can work for you, as fantastic, use it up. But if it doesn't, then don't. You know, if there's a reviewer that 100% of everything that reviewer says, you're dead lockstep with them, fine, don't use it. That's great. I'm just giving people another set of tools that isn't out there for those who may want to use it. Okay, so now we are going to specifically talk about Seaside and how it fits into the bite-size breakdown. Okay. So, I'm going to do a quick... I'm not going to fully flesh out the rules. I'm not going to do a full rules explanation, but I'll give you like just a little rundown. So, in Seaside, this is the game. It comes in this bag. All right? And all it has are these round tokens. And I will tell you what the designer said in the rule book. The designer has a little breakdown right here. He said that he basically wanted a game that didn't have any right angles. Now I'm just summarizing here. He wanted to make all round tokens, which check, he did, and a game you could play at the beach. So, you know, bag, wooden tokens. So you can play this at the beach, and you're not going to have to worry about any right angles if they upset you. So basically, the whole game is usually these are in this bag to start the game. And you put them all in there. I just have them out for explanation purposes. So there are 4 types of tokens, 3 blues. I'm sorry, 7 types, 3 blues and 4 whites. And I will explain those a little bit more in a little bit. Then there are 3 styles of tokens with those 4 types. There are the ones that have blue on both sides. There are the ones that have white on one side and blue on the other. And there are ones that have white on both sides. Okay? This is how many there are of the ones with blue on both. This is how many there are of the ones with blue on one side and white on the other. This is how many there are of the ones with just white. Okay. Now, let's talk about what these do. So when you're playing, you pull a chip out of the bag. So just one at a time, you pull it out, okay, and you look at both sides, and you decide which side you want to do. If it's a blue side, you can put it into the middle of the table, in between all players, and that is called the C. So then, you know, these tokens are they're gonna mount up that are in the C. And you can only do that if it's blue. If you get a chip that's blue on both sides, you have to do that. So the blues are a crab, a little something, a pod, I don't know, an insect, and a shell. Okay? These are the push your luck tokens. If you get one, you put it in the C, and then you dive back in the bag. And you can continue to do that as long as you're pulling the blue ones. You can continue to do that until you come up with a white one that you want to score on, which there are 4, and I'm not going to get into how you score, but you can score different ways. Each one of these scores a different way. And you play this in front of you, and it's part of your tableau until the end of the game. And, you know, like I said, I'm not going to explain all the scoring for now, but you would keep those, and your goal is to get as many of these as possible. Sometimes they allow you to pull, you know, stuff out back from the C, and you can keep them. There's also a way that you can keep pulling, but once you get one of these, you have to stop. You have to stop because they're both white, and at that point, you just decide which one's going to score you the most points. Okay? So, it's really just a a push your luck game. That's it. Now we're going to talk about where I think this game falls on the continuum of our breakdown using these 4 categories. So let's just talk about rule set first. Okay. So rule set. You would think that a game that only has this many components and that comes in a bag, that it would be fairly streamlined. And I am going to say that that is not true. That is not the case. I do not think it's complicated. I wouldn't put it on this side, but I don't think I would put it over here either. I think at the very, maybe right here, you know, maybe here at the most. So it's probably somewhere in here. But it might be right about there. I would say it's neither complicated nor streamlined, or kind of streamlined. I would put this group kind of streamlined in here. Because there's these white ones, they're not super intuitive. What you're supposed to do, and I mean I don't know. It took me longer than I thought it would to get the rule, probably 3 or 4 turns before I really had the rules in my head. And I thought it would be like a 30-second explanation and go, considering the how small the game is. But it wasn't. It wasn't. So next, let's talk about gameplay. Okay, so in this game, you've got one thing that you do. You have to pull a chit out of the bag. And then you look at both sides. If they're both blue, you've got 0 choice. You pull again. So, okay. If they're both white, you have 1 out of 2 choices. Which side are you doing? If about half of the chits have a blue and a white side. So you go, okay, do I want to keep pressing my luck or do I want to score? And that's it. I mean, it's not complex any way, shape, or form. I wouldn't say it's Candyland simple. It's not down here simple. But I would say it's mostly simple. This is not somewhere in here. This is not a complex game in any way, shape, or form. It's incredibly simple gameplay. Okay. All right, now let's talk about mastery. How easy or hard is it, or how easy or difficult is it to know exactly your best move on your turn? I think it would probably take, like, by the end of the game, I felt like I had a pretty good grasp of what I should do. I think probably the 3rd, 4th game, 5th game of this at most, and you're on autopilot. You know exactly how you're playing and what you want to do. I would call this game... Hi, Pumpkin. I would call this game mostly easy. Mostly easy, down here. Hi, sweetheart. Okay. And lastly, planning. I think this one's pretty simple. I would not call this strategic. I don't think it would fall on the strategic end at all. I would say it's definitely tactical. It's probably almost completely tactical, but at the very least, it's mostly tactical. So then this is our bite-sized breakdown. For Seaside, I would say, does it do exactly what the designer wanted? Is this a game that would be perfect to play at the beach for people who don't want to deal with right angles? I would say yes. He crushed it. This is a perfect game. If you find yourself wanting to play a board game at the beach and you do not want to deal with right angles, this is the game. Seaside's the game. Boom. I would also say this would work well with, say, you're at a family get together, and mostly non-gamers, maybe people who like to play cards, but they're not really wanting to play cards, or they really they're mad at right angles for some reason, then this is a great game for that, because it's not. It might take a few minutes, a couple of turns, but you can pretty much just start playing and teach the game as you go. And by the time the first game's over, everyone will probably understand mostly what's going on, and you can play again. And because it's easy and it's simple, and if they're card players, they probably like tactics, so that it would go over really well there. That is Seaside. So all right, that is it for this weekend wind up for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know. Leave in the comments below. If you want to help our group, a fantastic way to do that is completely free, is to subscribe. Hit the little bell so you get notifications. If you're in Central Ohio and you haven't visited us yet, come hang out. If you're passing through and you're ever in Central Ohio, get on our Discord. The link should be in the description. Get on our Facebook group. The link will be in the description. Or just leave us a comment here and say, hey, can I come and check it out? And yeah, of course, we're free. Come on and play. We teach games. We teach lots of games. We teach them every week, 2 to 3 times a week. We have between 20 and 30 people at a meet, and we're teaching 5, 6, 7, sometimes 10 or more games meetup. So, especially on Saturdays, even Fridays. Oh, come on out. Let other people know about us. Get involved with the videos, interact, and it'll really help, and I'd really appreciate it. So I'd say that's it, and I don't have an outro. I don't have to walk around anymore, but I'll just sing us out. Hey, diddly dee 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 doo. This is not the outro song. See you.